Our next guest did not win the Powerball drawing, obviously, because he's here, not on a plane to some small South Pacific island with a quick stop in Switzerland to open a bank account. To our good fortune, because he is about to impart the knowledge one must have if indeed a few $100 million, or even a little less, should drop into your lap. Let's welcome back from the Society to Advance Financial Education, the non-South Pacific Islander, Steve Beaman. Didn't win, did you?
Well, no, I didn't, I'm sad to say, but if you do, I'd be happy to help you with it.
I bet you would. I got people lining up already who are on the phone saying, if you win, Ed, we're there. But let's put it this way. We got 3 winners of over $500 million in Powerball here. And we've seen and heard so many stories about people who win tremendous amounts of money, and literally in a decade or less, they are flat broke, sometimes even dead. What is it that's the smart thing to do if you get this kind of a windfall, or even something a little bit smaller all of a sudden right in front of you? The smart thing to do is what you do is you hold position, and Steve says nothing for a moment. That's what happens on technology, of course. Steve will be back with us momentarily, of course, because I think what happened was I said $500 million to Steve, and if I had a guess, I would think that perhaps even his computer froze at the mere thought of perhaps being able to work for someone who had $500 million. That may have happened. So the whole idea here is not just that you won the money, but then what do you do with it? And I mentioned this a couple of minutes ago to Steve while we're trying to get him back here, that there have been stories, and as a matter of fact, there was a story of someone in Tampa who I think won several $100 million. Within 12 years, they had land, their cars, everything flat broke. They were back living on a 1-acre lot somewhere in the middle of nowhere with almost no home. And then again, we've heard of other stories where people have been really taken advantage of by predators who immediately go after them and say, invest in this, buy this, do this, give me this. And again, we also know that there's plenty of people, whether or not you want to admit it or not, you and I both know that there would be family members who would be wanting us to give them a couple of bucks. Steve, I said your computer got frozen because it was thrilled at the thought of $500 million. So now we only got a couple of minutes left here. First thing, what do people do? They win this kind of money.
Well, I think the NSA came out. The first things first, they need to be very careful who they tell. Predators will come out from attorneys, accountants, investment people, all their best friends who now know what the best deal of the century is. And so the first thing we always recommend is they don't tell anyone for 6 months. Just take a breath. Don't do anything. It's going to be there later. But get your ducks lined up before you ever open your mouth.
Should you immediately get a lawyer and a financial person involved, or should you, again, still just wait 6 months?
I would wait, but I would definitely start talking to attorneys to find one that could match my needs before they knew how much I had won.
And, of course, remember that Steve and Ed are also on the donor list, just in case you're wondering as well.
Yes, we are.
Let's move on for a couple of other quick things here. This was interesting. Costco, so much business they turn in there. They're going to stop accepting American Express companies' credit cards from next year on. This is 8% of the card company's business. This is going to make one heck of a dent in American Express earnings.
Yes, it will. This started up in Canada with a dispute about a year ago, and it's now come down to the U.S. And because of the fees that American Express charges the retailers like Costco, Costco has just said, well, you know what, we're not going to play ball. This has been going on in the small business community for years, where you'll frequently see signs, we don't take American Express. But to have Costco do this, I think, is a real wake-up call to Amex.
I think it is, too, because a lot of people, when they talk about Amex, they love the service, but they hate having to pay a fee, and all those kind of fees that the consumers themselves have to pay and the vendors have to pay. 60 seconds here. Expedia is buying Orbitz for $1.38 billion in cash. Yeah, it's great to have competition here, Steve, but are consumers getting to the point where, honestly, if you go to a lot of these sites, you'll see pretty much the same prices? And how much competition is there going to be from two sites owned by the same company?
Well, it's kind of a strange beast because you look at the travel agency, they all own each other. There's not a whole lot of separation here. But to that point, the Internet does give flexibility on prices. So we don't have antitrust issues yet, but we need to keep an eye on that because they may pop up in the future.
And there are still occasional bargains here, or are they really just minimal here, Steve? When we talk about hotels, airlines, do you really get anything different at different sites?
I think you do a little bit in the hotel space more than the airline space. Airlines have set fixed formulas on which they base their prices. There's not a lot of deal structure there, but some hotels you still can.
All right. So still, the whole thing is we talk to consumers about this all the time. Buyer beware. Do your homework. Look around for the best deal. Don't just take it on.
And watch MidPoint.
And watch MidPoint, of course. And I'm telling you, in case you do win the lotto, Steve's available, and I can certainly be there for marketing support as well. Mr. Beaman, always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Sorry about that connection.
No worries about it, brother. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, the place where civilization flourished, and at the moment where the world is watching for the effects of a government driving itself and the globe into a financial disaster. That's coming up next with Peter Morisi when we come back on MidPoint.